So next up, Co-Founders Club. Super stoked about this as well. Similar to Agapi and her sister Ariana, we have another team of fierce and really, really smart women who have found a way to complement each other in creating Finery, which is the future of fashion and tech. And Brooklyn Decker is going to join us with Whitney Casey, her co-founder, to be interviewed by Sophia Shabat of Women's Wear Daily. And Brooklyn said a couple days ago when we were just hanging out, like we were being interviewed. She said, I'm such a cliche, I'm like model and actress, and then went on to do this incredibly eloquent interview about deep tech and raising money from VCs and taking that seat at the table that we talk about a lot within the value of women. And I was thinking that's just not really what I think of as a cliche. Model, actress, tech wonk, entrepreneur, mother. So yay, let's give it up.
So if you haven't downloaded Finery yet on your phone, do so after our talk. It's absolutely incredible. And I'm going to ask Brooklyn and Whitney to explain it in what is Finery in your own words? How do you explain it?
The clueless closet on steroids. So we all, I don't know if we all, I'm going to make the assumption that we all saw Clueless back in the day, and you saw Cher scrolling through her closet, and you thought, how cool would that be? Well, here we are in 2018, and we finally have it. So in short, we get all of your online purchases and pull them into an aggregated online wardrobe for you automatically, no manual entry. And then you can easily add in-store purchases with a browser extension that's kind of like a Pinterest button.
And I think our team is here, some of them.
Hi.
Tori, back there.
Hey,
Frank,
Team
one of our
Finery.
developers. You guys stand up. Hello. Oh, they're way back there. Hi, guys.
So you open Finery up on your phone. What happens? Can you explain it?
Yes, you open Finery, and the first thing you do when you download is you do an onboarding quiz. And part of that is because we want to get more information from you so we can give you better recommendations, right? And we can give you better styling recommendations, and it helps our styling algorithm make a better assumption for you. But full disclosure, a big reason why we created the onboarding quiz was because with these wardrobes, mine, for example, has hundreds of items, which is so embarrassing, and I didn't actually see it till I downloaded Finery. But these wardrobes, to upload all of your items, takes time. And so we had to find a way to make sure that you stuck with us while we uploaded all your items. So it's basically a way to give us time to upload your items and also to get more information so that we can provide better recommendations for you.
And so in addition to having the ultimate closet, I think it's really interesting because we spoke before this, women spend an average hundreds and hundreds of hours a year on getting dressed. So this is also, tell me a little bit about the time-saving element that was your goal with Finery.
It's crazy to think that we spend 10 years of our lives getting dressed and shopping. And that's not even being like incredibly particular. That's just like, you got to figure out what to wear. We have to get dressed. Looks like maybe one day we won't.
You don't have to get dressed, but you might end up in cuffs, which is fine, you know? I mean, everyone's got to try it sometime.
But that just seems like just an extraordinarily the amount of time that we could be spending doing other things like networking or reading or things like that. We aim to just sort of shave off at least 2 years. Like that's our real goal is 2 years. It's aggressive. But if we can give you back some of that time every week by just suggesting outfits based on the clothes you already own. So we're not trying to sell you more clothes. We're trying to get you to wear the clothes that you own, be less wasteful, be more resourceful, and really be more resourceful not only with the things that you have, but with your time. Because the closet is actually the second most valuable place in the home. And we'll spend more on our wardrobes than we do on our education.
More money
That's wild.
than our clothing,
Well, also
than our education.
nobody needs 7 black blazers. Like that's
Exactly. Think about like you have an inventory management system. We can see our music on our phones. We can see our finances on our phones. Like I have 2 little kids. I can look at their baby monitor from another state on my phone and adjust my thermostat from afar. But I can't actually be in a store or be in a doctor's office wanting to pack and see what I have on my phone. And it's ridiculous that that didn't exist before. So that's what Finery does.
cool. So Whitney, your background is in news and TV, and Brooklyn, you've acted and are a model. Tell us a little bit about how your backgrounds helped you become an entrepreneur and a tech entrepreneur at that.
Go ahead.
Well, media is just a great preparation for all of life because you kind of, what you do is you interview so many characters. And so when you become an entrepreneur, or let's just say like you're not an entrepreneur, you're wanting to do something great in your own company, or you want to sort of start a smaller company, you need to be able to get to the core of what the problem is that you're trying to solve. And I think journalists are really good about that because you have to actually tell a story and you have to understand what the problem is. So when we started this company, I really wanted to know what were the market problems? Like what was the juggernaut? Was it that we had too many clothes? Was it that we were buying too many things we didn't need? Was it putting the outfit together? And all of those things sort of coming together and just asking you, like if I could just sit in this room for like 2 hours, I would get to every one of these tables and be like, okay, what's your biggest problem? What's your biggest concern with clothing? Why are you buying too much? I would love it. This is like the world's best focus group. And if you guys are looking down half the time, I know you're looking at your wardrobes. So I'm okay with that. I'll interview you after. I'll be like, okay, where did we mess up? What did we do wrong? How can we be better?
And then for me, I'll say with film specifically, or acting specifically, modeling as well, you are constantly working on new projects with different teams. And so you have to be really malleable and you have to be able to work with, especially in the creative industry, the personalities run the gamut, which is fascinating and just really good learnings to enter any space. And also you deal with rejection regularly. And not that that specifically applies to business, but as Whitney always says, no is just an invitation, which she has really taught me. When someone says no, it's just like, it's basically a message to work harder. And that's definitely true for business, and especially with a startup. You know, a lot of people are hesitant in the beginning, and it's funny how momentum happens after other people. You know, it's coolness. A lot of it is just momentum. So it's like, oh, she downloaded that app, I'm going to download it. Oh, she partnered with him, I'm going to partner with him. And so it's similar in entertainment. And so you just are constantly pivoting and constantly adjusting. And I've found that that has given me the thick skin necessary to go into business.
That's awesome. How did you guys meet?
Basically on a friend blind date a few years ago. A girlfriend lived in, Whitney's based in Austin, or based in New York, I'm based in Austin, a friend of ours in Austin, just knew we would get along and we would be sort of intellectual soulmates, and that was absolutely the case.
And did you think you'd make good business partners from the get-go? Is that something you had in mind?
I think we were good friends and we always trusted each other's opinion on really important things in life, and it's been a long time now that we've been friends, and I'd say the first person I would go to as just the most solid contrarian would be Brooklyn. She's not going to agree with me, even if she does agree with me, which is awesome.
Yeah.
Because I also really, truly respect everything that she brings to the table. So her moxie, her ability to withstand rejection in such an unbelievable way, and also the fullness of the way that she thinks about something. And I think that's where we became really great friends, because she will like pull something out of her ass and I'll be like, where did that even
Not
come
literally.
from? No, sometimes literally. No, I'm kidding. It is quite funny. Brooklyn is also, just so you guys know, one of the grossest human beings you will ever meet.
Thank you so much.
She's just gross. Like if you ever had like those, what were they, Garbage Pail Kids? They were, see, I'm older than most of you guys.
I remember Garbage Pail Kids.
Yeah, Garbage Pail Kids. They were like the Cabbage Patch Kids, but like, they had like Scabby Sam.
Is that what I am?
But
Am I Scabby Sam?
In all fairness, they were very cool.
They were cool.
They were very cool.
Just like you, but they were
Thank
gross.
you.
But that's what's so great, because she's just exactly everything that you see, you get is 100% Brooklyn. So including what's in that mind of hers, which is sometimes crazy, but also so brilliant. Brilliant.
I'll say one thing that works really well for us, and I think is really important, specifically if you're looking for a co-founder or any sort of business partner, you have to be able to fight well. And that sounds sort of crazy, but we had some experience, I shouldn't say fighting, but in our friendship, being able to completely disagree with one another, which is what Whitney's speaking to, and still ultimately respect one another. And find the optimum solution based on our disagreement, and that applies to business really well. And I think it's really important with a co-founder, any business partner, or anyone you go in business with, that you have to be able to have those frank conversations and fight well, because things will come up and you will have disagreements, and if you can't get through those things constructively, it's going to be really challenging to move forward.
So I was going to get to this a little bit later, but since we're talking about it, how does that pan out? Can you share an example of something maybe you disagreed about and how you worked through it?
Sophia, I thought you wanted us to put a boxing
Let's do it.
You wanted us? I thought that's what you were like, okay, who's going to win in a fight? That's really what this is all about. Let's start.
No,
we actually asked, Brooke asked that question to me. It was like, who do you think would win in a fight? Or we were talking about, out of our friends, who would win in a fight, like a real fisticuffs. And I think
we're evenly matched.
Her husband said, yeah, I think you and Whitney are, but
he said Whitney would win, but that's neither here nor there.
And he knows a bit about competition.
He does.
A little bit.
He knows a little bit about competing, exactly.
But your question really was, what's the worst fight that we've got?
Or how do you, like, if you can give an example of, like, okay, you disagree on something with the business, like how do you kind of, how does that process work? How does, not necessarily who wins, but how do you go about solving the issue?
I think we trust each other's instincts, and ultimately it's funny because we actually don't disagree all that often. We just believe in different approaches. Mm-hmm. And so I feel like because of that, the end goal is kind of the same. I mean, the end goal is the same for both of us. We just kind of have a different approach to getting there. And so really, I think what it comes down to is who's willing to take on the work. So if we maybe disagree about the approach with one thing, you'll say, you know what, I'm just going to take this, do it my way, and trust me, and vice versa. And I think that's the most efficient, so that we're both not wasting time getting things done. And also, again, because our relationship is rooted in like fundamental respect, that's something we can easily move through. Like, I respect and know that you'll take care of it.
That's awesome. So you didn't have any that I know, any experience in the tech world, super competitive landscape. How do you go about launching a pretty complex app without experience? How did you go about it?
But they always say that the first people that you work with will be the first 4 people you work with will then hire the next 60 people you work with. So you better pick those first 4 people in a really smart way. And so picking your co-founder, or happening into your co-founder, was the first good choice, because you don't necessarily need to pick somebody who has the opposite strengths of you. Neither of us are tech founders, even any tech. I mean, I have a little bit of a tech background, only having worked for Match.com, but I think that you want to find the people that you align with on core values first, not necessarily technical. You should all be generalists when you're first starting a company anyway. So the first 4 people that we started this company with are still with us. We're very integral. They're amazing. And then they end up hiring with us everyone else. And so those people you have to tell yourself, I have 3 pillars or 4 pillars or whatever your pillars are of values that hold up the roof. And you have to define those together. We really want to hire X, Y, and Z people, whatever your core values are, like integrity, intellectual curiosity. It doesn't need to be okay, we need to find a coder, we need to find a CFO type. Everybody will learn how to do those things if they have those core values of whatever those core values that you define. I don't want to give them to you because they could be different for everybody, but you really need to define them before you define anything.
Mm-hmm. And dream versus reality. Is Finery, is the dream you had of Finery what we see now on the app? Did anything change along the way?
Yes and no. It is, because it's our idea really coming to fruition, and it's, I think, what we imagined, but in a different form. And one thing as a company that we really pride ourselves on is being able to iterate based on user feedback. And so one thing we did before we even launched, we were in beta, is we sent Finery out to a few influencers because they had a following and women were consuming their content, and we thought, okay, you know what women want. We want you to use our product and give us feedback. What do we need? What should we have? What are we missing? And we got a lot of incredibly valuable feedback from that process, and we've continued to do that along the way, and not with influencers specifically, but with our users. And so our product has changed based on what our user has really demanded of us, but I think ultimately it's exactly what we hoped it would be, and I think we have bigger hopes for it yet.
100%. In fact, one of our first users is in this audience, Heather Chapman.
Heather, are
Over
you here? There she is.
Yes, she was like, Heather, if you listen to your users, Heather came up with Heather shops online. She works a lot and she doesn't have time to get into stores, so she shops a lot online. But one of the things she said to us was, I keep a spreadsheet for all of my returns. Because, you know, like one place has 30 days, one has 15, and there's so many things to remember. So then we said, well, why don't we figure out a way to tell you when you need to return things? So if you just use the app because you want to know, hey, we send you a reminder, 7 days left till you no longer have time to return this thing. Just to keep, you know, just to give you something that's sort of like, hey, we're there for you. You don't need to go buy more stuff, but if you did buy it, here's when you need to return it. So you just don't get stuck with something. And that was from our user, Heather. So it's so cool when you actually, you know, listen to your users.
Getting that notification is actually really helpful. Yesterday I got one that I had a return to do at Neiman Marcus. Thank you for the reminder.
Nice.
So let's talk about being an entrepreneur and being a female entrepreneur. What are some of the challenges that you faced, that you continue to face?
Specific to being a female. I think it's
I
important.
mean, maybe, is there a difference? Do you see?
It's a huge
I do
difference.
think there is, yeah.
Huge.
Go ahead.
It's hugely different. We don't have access to capital. And it's, I mean, yes, we could just say it's not fair. But the numbers are against us, and they have been for a long time. And I mean, I can just, less than 3% of women are actually in control of the capital, in venture capital. That needs to change. Less than 10% of women actually get venture money. And then less than 8% of women are actually listed as inventors on patents. And they even said that it could be 80 years before we have as many patents as men. So we have to change that. And I think those are the, when you are an entrepreneur as a female, you're going into it with all of those numbers. And you're saying to yourself, wow, not only do I have an idea that's going to be hard to sell and get out there, but then I have this whole panoply of stats that are against me, right? And if you're a minority, it's the stats even divide by an in half and exponentially less. So like, that's where we come at this. And I know this is like, you know, we just listened to this positive empowerment, and yes, we've got to stay positive about that. And there are people up here that are trying to change those things. Samantha, that speech that she gave at the beginning was amazing. I was like, take me to your leader, or you are the leader. I want you to lead me. But that's what we have to do. We have to be there for each other, and we have to use the products that women make. That is the only way to make them successful. We absolutely have to do that, guys. Peel back your tech. Peel back. We all look at our groceries. We look at the cereal boxes. We say, oh, this is what's in this sugar. This is what's in. How about we peel back our technology? If we knew that Uber was full of people who were not treating women well, but yet we started using it, we may think a little bit like, oh, if we pulled back the tech on Uber and it said, oh, sexist, we may be like, maybe I'm going to download Juno. I'm just saying.
Can I put a positive spin on that?
Yes, of course.
Because all of that is true, but I will say it is a really exciting time for women because we are now seeing female entrepreneurs before us really pave the way, and they're now saying, there was a big study that came out last year that said female CEOs have been proven to have more success in the field than male CEOs, which is incredibly exciting. And now you have venture capitalists that are like, wait a second, women have 80% of the spending power in the household. What do women want? I have no idea what women, let's hire a female partner. Let's get some female founders in here. Let's invest in female-led companies. And so, yes, these stats are dismal, but I do think that there is an uptick, and I think that there's an upward mobility in funding and in female entrepreneurship, and I think more than ever, this is such an exciting time to be a female entrepreneur because there are women before you, women before us, wanting and trying to pave the way and wanting to help, and there are savvy consumers who, as Whitney was saying, or as Whitney was preaching, I mean, you know, you were telling everyone to be you were saying, you were saying to be a savvy consumer, but there are those savvy consumers out there who are specifically going after and supporting female-founded companies, female-run brands, technology, and so, again, yes, the stats are scary, but it's an exciting time to be a woman.
And I just read a pitch book yesterday that VCs are now really interested in influencers. So
yeah,
the
yeah,
one
guys.
community that is mostly women are the influencers. So that's amazing. And bloggers.
That's really
and
exciting.
VCs are interested in you guys, so yeah, do it.
And I've also got to say that, like, from a corporate perspective, people are looking at hashtags. They're looking at what you're posting. So what you guys post, it's I think helping move the needle in terms of helping business owners understand what the demand is. So that's really interesting. So how do you go about? You raised $7 million, right? Mm-hmm. Which is amazing. Congratulations. How do you ask for money? How do you go about that? How do you fund a company?
Like this? No, I'm kidding.
First of all, I didn't mean preaching. You know what I meant, right?
Yeah.
So some really great advice that some female founders gave us was to, well, first of all, go to portfolio companies that invest in women. Because or go to VCs that invest in women, because you want someone who is either in your space or who has a proven track record that they believe in female founders. And that's incredibly important. So that was really deliberate on our end.
And you can find that out. You can go to Crunchbase and look up any company that you think is founded by women and then find out, it's like reverse engineering it, just find out then who invested in them. And then also you really have to know your space. So to get money, a lot of people will tell you like, oh, just go out and meet with any VC, there's money out there. No, just like really understand that we weren't meeting with VCs that invested in fintech or healthcare because they weren't going to understand Cher's Clueless Closet. And not that many men will totally understand that either, because we had many questions like, well, let me ask my wife. And that happens. That is the reality of it. And a venture capitalist wife is not necessarily shopping online or wants anybody in her email, for that matter, helping her find her receipts or anything. So it's such a different audience. You have to like put that on pause and you have to say, no, let me tell you, I know my market. Here's my market size. Here's who our girl is. Here's what her needs are. And that's that kind of journalist thing, is just like every one of you has the power to ask questions to other people standing on the subway platform or in a line about what their needs are, and then you bring those to the market and you tell the venture capitalist, this is what women need, and here's why. I interviewed 50 of them the other day, here are the answers. And then they say, oh wow, that's like really unbelievable, I never thought about that. And you're like, yes, well, 50% of us are women. Isn't that amazing that you just like never thought of that? But okay. So you just have to, I mean, one thing, we met with Jen Hyman, who founded Rent the Runway. And I had this like terrible moment where Jen Hyman reached into my soul and pulled out the demon tears. Like you never want to cry, especially in front of Jen Hyman.
The ugly
cry?
cry?
She is the toughest woman in the world, but like God bless her because she is. So she reached into my soul one day and was like, what is the problem, Whitney? And the problem was I had 30 minutes with this unbelievable woman and I had to spend 10 of them trying to figure out how we were going to explain to men why getting dressed to women is a really important part of our day. And I was like, that's my problem, Jen. Because like, it's a reality. Like, how do you just not know that? And so she was like, well, let's deal with it. So what we ultimately did was we decided to think of it as like, a man thinks about what he's going to eat and starts looking at Seamless, right? And he's like looking through, and these are cues like, oh, maybe I want Chinese. Maybe I want Thai tonight, and they're like visual cues. Well, a woman should be able to look at her closet and be like, maybe I'm gonna wear red tonight. And that was ultimately the first slide of our pitch deck, was just basically Seamless versus Finery and why women need it. But do you see, like, understanding how to explain your idea to a group of men is like the only way you're gonna raise money.
And that's definitely part of journalism and how, your work in TV journalism and news, I'm sure that contributed to helping communicate that.
Yes, and Jen Hyman.
And Jen.
Reaching into my soul.
And Brooklyn, in an interview recently, you said something really interesting, which I think is very important for the audience, that you don't need to start with $100,000, that borrowing $1,000 from an aunt or a cousin or a friend could get you, off the ground.
I think that's really important for like a really good takeaway that I was unaware of until pretty recently. Is that women, you can be investors, and a lot of my friends who are professionals. Oh, please
Oh, okay.
wrap up. Basically, as a female, you can invest, and that doesn't mean you have to invest $10,000 or $50,000. You can invest $1,000. You can save up and invest $2,500. But you can be an investor in a company and invest the things that you believe in, and make an idea really flourish, and then make a lot of money off of it. And I think the more women who realize, like, oh, I can invest my funds in an idea that I love or in an entrepreneur that I believe in, and then I can profit off of that, the more money we're going to have available for women. So I think just planting that seed now and knowing you don't have to be a VC, you don't have to invest hundreds of thousands of dollars. It can be a tiny little amount. It can not only, again, bring you a ton of profit, but it just paves the way for the women that follow.
Cool, and I know we have to wrap up, so I would love for you guys to offer our audience, what do you think are the 3 things that everyone here that wants to go into business or is in business on their own should have in mind or should prioritize?
3 things you need to prioritize. Like I said, the pillars, what your core values are, is the first thing. Second thing is what your market size is. And then the third thing is what's the problem you're trying to solve.
Yes, I think also having that very clear end goal, because a lot of distractions can happen if they don't funnel directly towards that end goal. They're going to be a waste of your time. So having that focus, I think, is really important. Trusting your team and admitting when you're at fault or when you don't know something is really important. I, as a new entrepreneur, am so guilty of that. I am learning on the go, and Jamie, who's our head of marketing, I'm constantly reaching out to her saying, Jamie, what does this mean? Or I've never done this before. Is this normal? And I think that makes your team stronger and makes you a stronger businesswoman. And 3, I would say being really, really creative with your, this is simple, but being really, not simple, but a simple idea, being really creative with your approach in your marketing, because as you all know, as content creators and as entrepreneurs, there is so much content out there. And how do you separate yourself from the rest of the pack? And you look at these companies who have had a ton of success, they've been incredibly innovative and creative with the way that they market. And I think that's something to always, I think it's something we're always conscious of, but something to really take to heart when you're building a company.
Awesome. Well, Whitney and Brooklyn, thank you so much. And if you haven't yet, download Finery.
Download Finery in the App Store and Finery.com.
It's
Thank
free.
you so much.
It's free. For now. For now.
Thank you. Thank you.